Welcome to Speaking of That, where communicating with youth becomes an art. With over 46 combined years of experience, my daughter and I share what we learn about connecting with youth through laughter, learning, and especially heart. And along the way, you'll discover why your story matters. You ever thought of what kind of speaker you'd like to become? I have been in the field for quite a while, and I've realized that there's two different types of speakers that are out there. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about what I call a spotlight speaker and a mirror speaker. They're both different. They both have an impact. They're both just as important. They both move youth. They both inspire. And one's not better than the other. It's just the way that they present. So we're going to be talking about the very beginning, what it's like backstage for those two different speakers. We're going to talk about what it's like as they open their presentation. We're going to talk about the impact that they have and the different attitudes that students walk out of the gym or auditorium thinking after watching one of these presentations. And then we're going to talk about the important part is the end of the career. So today we're going to be talking about spotlight speakers and mirror speakers. Backstage. What does it look like backstage for the spotlight speaker? The spotlight speaker has their presentation 100% ready to go. Their slides are in order. They know when the video is going to pop up. They know the music part. Everything is set, and there's not going to be much deviation from that. The spotlight speaker is going to be thinking something like, man, I've impressed them before. I'm going to impress them again. I'm ready to get out there and fill this whole auditorium, this whole gym with my personality. I'm going to hold this flashlight on me, and I'm going to be the main character of this presentation, and I'm going to wow these kids. And they're going to walk out of this room inspired, wanting to do something different. Now, the mirror speaker has a whole different attitude. A mirror speaker backstage has their presentation about 90% ready to go. There's going to be some flexibility in there. What a mirror speaker is going to be thinking is, man, I hope I can make a connection with these kids. I hope I can move these kids. I hope I can reflect on them so they can learn something about their lives and do something different. So it's a whole different attitude backstage. And a mirror speaker is going to be flexible. If they get out there and their audience is all hyped up, ready to go, they're going to have a hyped up, ready to go type of introduction. If they get out there and their audience is kind of subdued, maybe quiet, maybe it's a Monday morning, they're going to have an opening for that. If they're going to get out there and they're going to be talking to probation kids, or they're going to be talking to students in a credit recovery program, they're going to have a different type of presentation for that. So the mirror speaker is going to be more flexible backstage as they're preparing to come out. What does the presentation look like for the spotlight speaker? A spotlight speaker is going to come out on stage and they're going to fill the whole entire auditorium with their personality. They're going to take this big, huge backpack and they're going to pour it out all over this table. And they're going to hold up stuff and they're going to talk about that thing. Hey, here's the team that I was part of during that championship. Hey, here's this incredible thing that I did a couple years ago and how tough it was. Hey, here's this struggle that I had. And you probably saw it on the news and how I really had to overcome this difficulty to be able to achieve this thing that I achieved. And so what they're going to do is they're going to come out and they're going to talk about their achievements. Now, a spotlight speaker is going to hold up a completed puzzle and say, this is what it looks like. Here it is. Here's the picture that you're shooting for. This is the one that I accomplished. That's a spotlight speaker. Now, a mirror speaker is going to come out and they're going to have a different type of attitude. They're not going to have these great achievements. They're not going to talk about these big things that they did. But what they're going to be talking about is they're going to be talking about these small moments in their lives. They're going to be talking about little things that took place and how they overcame it. More than likely, a mirror speaker is going to walk out on stage and they're going to open up with some type of question. Hey, when did you feel invisible? Have you ever gone for a goal and you didn't make it and you felt disappointed? Hey, when was the time that you reached out to somebody and they didn't reach back to you? Hey, when was the time that you tried to accomplish something and you fell really short in your life? That's what a mirror speaker is going to do. They're not going to walk out with a completed puzzle. They're going to walk out with a puzzle box And they're going to hand this box to students and they're going to go, hey, let's see if we can put this together. And so what's going to happen is they're not going to talk about this great, amazing thing that they did. I have a story, and I am kind of a little bit shocked how this story hangs in there. And whenever we do surveys, it always comes out on top. And my story, my great achievement, was spraying a cockroach when I was 7 years old in a garage. That's it. But because of that story, I'm able to connect with kids and ask them, hey, have you ever sprayed a bug? Yeah, I remember doing that. Hey, you ever sprayed a bug and it took off running or chased you? Yeah, I remember that happening. That's because I'm more of a mere speaker. So I'm not talking about these great things that I have done. What I'm going to be talking about are small moments in my life and how I build on those. That is going to be my opening type of presentation. That's going to be the opening that a mere speaker and a spotlight speaker has. The end of a presentation, students are going to walk out after watching a spotlight speaker and they're going to be amazed. They're going to be hyped up, they're going to be excited, and they're going to be like, wow, that person did something that was really cool. I remember watching that on the news. I remember seeing that on YouTube. I remember reading about that or hearing about that, and now I got to see this person speak. And so they're going to be walking out and they're going to be razzle-dazzled, they're going to be amazed, and they're probably going to feel inspired to do something in their life. And so that's what's going to happen after a spotlight speaker. Now, a spotlight speaker is going to be walking off stage. They're going to be thinking, wow, I really impressed these kids. Wow, I hope I inspired them to do something different. Wow, I hope that I encouraged them and they were able to see that I overcame this and they're able to overcome this as well. Now, what I have seen with spotlight speakers is they put out a lot of information and they inspire a lot of students. Students walk out of watching a mere speaker speak. They're going to be thinking something like this. Well, how can I apply that to my life? Wow, I remember going through what this individual went through. Boy, they're older, but they talked about being in high school and the struggles that they had. And those are the struggles that I'm having. I wonder how I can adapt what they did in their life to what I'm doing now. It kind of has given me a roadmap. Now, the mere speaker, when they walk off stage, they're not thinking, boy, I hope these kids remember who I am, because that's not going to happen. Because a mere speaker kind of moves themselves out of the spotlight and they allow the audience to be in the spotlight. So a mere speaker, when they walk off stage, they're thinking, man, I hope I connected with these kids. I hope I was able to teach these kids something. I hope they can walk away with a little more information on how to overcome that struggle or how to achieve that goal. And so that's the type of information that they're going to put out. And that is how students are going to walk out of their presentation. What does the end of a career look like for a spotlight speaker and a mere speaker? For a spotlight speaker, man, I hate to say this, but I've seen this so many times. It's a real gradual fading out. And it's almost like a candle that is going out. There's a point in this candle's life where it's bright, it's shiny, it's putting out a whole bunch of light. But the problem is eventually that light is going to start getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and it's going to go out. And the candle is going to wonder what happened, because their presentation is built on an event. It's built on a story. It's built on one moment of time. And what happens is that moment of time begins to fade. And it's almost like watching these bands that I watched when I was in high school get on stage again. When I look at them now and watch them sing the same songs that they sang back when I was in high school, it's kind of painful. It's kind of rough to watch them up on stage trying to dance the way that they used to dance and have the same type of energy that they had back then. And it just doesn't hit anymore because the culture has moved on. And so what takes place for the spotlight speaker is time moves on, but they haven't realized it. They still think their story about winning the Olympics in, 2000 is still relevant when it's not. They talk about things that students are like, I don't know what they're talking about anymore. I used to have a reference to the movie The Little Mermaid, and I didn't realize it, but the laughter from that used to be real strong, and then it faded, where now I would have a few kids like, laugh at this, even though I thought, man, that joke's still funny. It's funny to me because I remember that movie, but a majority of my audience had never seen that movie and they didn't understand that reference. And so the thing is, I had to change that story. I had to update it. And I realized that it had changed. Now, for the mere speaker, what happens is because they're used to adjusting, they're used to changing, they're used to adapting to different things, they actually grow stronger in the end. And their presentation even increases. Because think about this. If I told you about an event that took place in 2021, that's, a number of years ago, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that, but it's not going to have the same impact. But if I asked you a question like, what's a time that you tried to accomplish a goal and you couldn't do it? That's still relevant. When's a time that you felt invisible? That's still relevant. When was a time that somebody hurt you pretty bad and you had to overcome that and maybe even forgive that person or confront that person? That's still relevant. So what happens with the mere speaker is they grow in wisdom. They have a tendency to become mentors. As they get older, what happens is people look at them with a little more wisdom and think, wow, that person has gone through some stuff that I'm eventually going to face or that I'm going through right now. What happens with a spotlight speaker is they usually get invited to an event once, maybe twice, but it's like watching a movie. You've seen the movie once or twice, and then what takes place is you watch that movie and new movies come out and that movie kind of pushes to the back. So they get invited to an event once or twice and they're constantly having to look for new ventures, new events, new gigs to speak at. Now, for the mere speaker, because they're always adapting, always changing, what happens is venues will say stuff like, oh, we like the way this guy presents. We like the way that they get connected to the audience. We like the way that this individual gets information across that's still current. And they have a tendency to get asked back over and over and over again. I have been speaking for some of my sponsors since 1990. Can you believe that? And they have brought me back every year. And every year when I walk out of there, they ask me, hey, can you come back next year at the same time? And I'm like, yep, definitely will. Because they know my style. They know how I'm going to present. They know how I'm going to connect with the audience. And what takes place is they know my information is going to be new and updated. So those are the two different types of speakers that are out there. The spotlight speaker shines on them. It's based on one event. It's based on something that they achieved, something that they overcame, and they are the main focus of what that presentation is about. The mere speaker, what they are is they are reflecting back on the audience. They're not saying, hey, this is who I am. They're saying, who are you? They're handing the individual tools that they can go out and change their lives. So think about that. What type of presentation do you want to do? They're both, like I said at the beginning of this video, they're both equal in value. They both have an impact. They both move students to a different place or inspire students. You just have to think, what do I want the end of my career to look like? And what type of presentation do I want to do? If you've accomplished great things in your life, amazing stuff, be a spotlight speaker. If you're the type of individual that's broken a bat over your neck, or you ripped a telephone booth in half, or you climbed up a hill, or you saved a whole bunch of people, be a spotlight speaker. If you're the person that had cereal for breakfast, or you had a pet that you loved that passed away, or you rode a bike and you crashed, or you applied for a college and you didn't get in, be a mere speaker. Those are the two types of speakers that are out there. If you're interested in learning what type of speaker you can become, or if you want to become a youth speaker or just connect better with youth, then what you need to do is you need to look at our program, which is called the Youth Speaker Blueprint, because it will help you and it will set you miles ahead as opposed to having to fight it all along the way. We're going to give you tips and tricks and skills that will help you become a better speaker connecting with youth. Either way.